Manhattan at night was ablaze with lights, like constellations falling on the water. Daniel Mercer was returning to his penthouse, and the transparent wall overlooking the Hudson usually calmed him. But this time the glass reflected only the emptiness in his eyes. Notifications poured into his phone, breaking news, posts, tags with the word scandal. He opened it, and time stood still. An anonymous report. Mercer Atlas's lending algorithm biasly cut off low-income borrowers, pushing them into default. Charts, leaked correspondence, customer complaints, and his signature under the line. Sometimes you have to let the system hurt to teach the market. He took a breath, but the air became narrow. This is a montage, he whispered to himself, but his voice trembled treacherously. Daniel. The assistant on the line sounded as if from afar. Board of directors in the morning. The press is downstairs. In the corner of the room, the Entrepreneur of the Year statuette gleamed. That evening, it had fallen, accidentally or not, and split in half. He picked up the shard and felt the sharp edge in his palm. A thin line of blood showed through his skin. His thoughts raced back, to his childhood in Cleveland, to his nurse mother who had taught him to count every cent, and to his auto mechanic father who had always said, "Money is a voice, but the heart must never be silent." Was it he, Daniel, who had turned his voice into thunder and his heart into a shadow? A call from his former partner and childhood friend, Victor Lanes. "Listen, hang in there. This is going to hurt, but we'll get through it." "Did you know something?" Silence. "Victor, tell me this isn't your job. We'll talk tomorrow." Tomorrow had not yet come, but the pressure was on. A video of a young Army veteran talking about how he had lost his house because of smart scoring appeared on the screen. They call it risk. To us, it's like children in a car in the winter. His chest tightened like hail on glass. A minute later, the phone rang again. A message from his ex, journalist Ava Gray, the only one who had known him before he was famous. "The truth is always an expensive pleasure, Dan. Be prepared to pay." He turned off the light. The city beyond the glass shimmered like a pitiless applause hall. And for the first time in years, he felt fear, not for the stocks, but for his own name. Suddenly, like a flash of lightning, he realized that the familiar nature of the world had cracked. The fragment of the statuette cut into his palm, and he wouldn't let it go, as if the pain could confirm that he was still alive. The morning began with black coffee and gray faces. The board of directors spoke in lawyerly language. Exposure, class actions, temporary suspension. Cameras stalked the lobby like predators. Daniel tried to breathe evenly, but each question hit like a hammer. Who authorized the parameters? Why was the correspondence being sent from a personal email? Where were the audits? He answered clearly, but he could feel his once steady voice turning into a whisper in the storm. "We'll conduct an internal investigation," he said firmly. "I'm ready to provide all the clues." After the meeting, the lawyer put a folder on the table. Inside were copies of contracts, additional agreements without his approval. The signature was V. Lanes. Victor. Changes in the algorithm, risk premium adjustment, in neighborhoods with certain zip codes. This wasn't just a mistake, it was cold calculation. Two lines converged in Daniel's head. A childhood friend who dreamed of teaching the system a lesson. And audit tables where statistics had become a biome of suffering. Then a blow from the other side. Ava released an investigation. The fact-checking was ruthless. The sources were former employees hiding behind initials. When profit becomes God, people are trifles. On the air, her voice was firm as a scythe. And then, the leak of personal messages, where Daniel, breaking down after a shareholder's late-night call, wrote, "Sentiment is a luxury when the neighborhood is on fire." The sentence, taken out of context, became a brand. The stock market responded with lightning. The shares fell. The partners tore up their memorandums. "You knew." Daniel met Victor in an empty conference room. Glass, sky, city, like a proven theorem. "I knew you were weak," he said, smiling at the corner of his mouth. "The algorithm is not a monster. It is a mirror. The market wanted the truth. We gave the numbers. You sold our soul for a few EBITDA points. And you sold yours when you loved applause. Don't pretend to be a saint." The argument almost turned into a fight. But the real blow came in the evening. A temporary ban on access to the systems, suspension from office, seizure of part of the assets until the investigation was completed. A crowd met him in the lobby. Someone threw a paper cup, someone threw a stone with the word predator. And somewhere between the cameras he saw the eyes of the veteran mother from the story, wet, unwavering. He looked away. For the first time, the concept of losing everything became not a headline, but body temperature. At night, in a quiet apartment that smelled of steel and luxury, Daniel took off his watch, phone, smart ring. He sat down on the floor. And finally he heard the noise that had been living inside him for a long time. Not the cries of the stock exchange, not the din of press conferences, but the dull rumble of emptiness that was growing under the foundation of his name. I have not lost my reputation, he thought. I have lost myself. And that was the darkest of all feelings. He had driven from Manhattan to Queens, to a shop that smelled of grease and years of drowning. The old neon sign Mercer Auto still hung on the screws like a memory. Behind the workbench stood Mr. Lewis, his father's friend. Gray as salt on the asphalt. "Did you come as a son or as a billionaire?" he asked, not looking up. "As someone who no longer knows who he is." They drank coffee in silence from thick mugs. Lewis wiped his hands on a rag and took an old metal box from the closet. "Your father asked me to pass it on when the car starts lying louder than the driver." I didn't know what that meant. Now I guess I do. There were letters from his father in the box, about how he had been cheated at the dealership, how he wanted to create an honest shop where the customer is not prey. And then there was a notebook with phone numbers of names that now sounded like mountain names. A senator, a prosecutor unknown to anyone at the time, a risk consultant. Among the sheets was a copy of an old agreement, signed by Victor Lanes. The date was the year when they still shared an office room and a pizza joint. The clause in small print allowed for adaptive adjustments to scoring by external partners without the CEO's separate approval. Next to it was a handwritten note from his father. "When a decision is too complex, someone has already hidden a trap in it." "Why didn't you ever tell me, Dad?" Daniel whispered to the paper. "Why did I think complexity was strength?" Then there was a flash drive, old and scratched. It contained log files with a protocol of changes. Each risk adjustment was tied to a partnership fund called Orpheus Capital. The list of beneficiaries included several names, including an investor who had always demanded greater efficiency, and the chief of staff of one of the committees. The scheme reeked not just of greed, but of political isotopes, silent radiation that permeates everywhere. "This is your forbidden room," Lewis said. "But knowledge has a price." "I'm already crying," Daniel replied. "The question is who will have enough, and whether it will be enough." That same evening he wrote to Ava, "I have data, not about me, about them. But I don't know if I can live with it if I don't make it public." The answer came instantly. "You're already living the wrong life. Either you get your name back, or you'll call yourself someone else. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock, coffee shop on 12th. Bring the truth." At dawn they were sitting in a half-empty hall. Ava watched intently, without anger, but without condescension. "I'm not your enemy, Dan. I'm the enemy of lies. What if the truth destroys everything? It will destroy what's built on sand. What's built on rock will hold." As she looked through the files, alarm flashed in her eyes. This isn't just about an algorithm. It's a tunnel that goes straight into the center of the city. Someone has been laying tracks there for a long time. And for the first time in days, he felt a tiny spark. Not an excuse, not a victory, hope. It was like a firefly in a well. Far away, but real. As they parted, Ava touched his sleeve. "Remember, they'll come for us. For you. For me. For anyone who opens the hatches. The choice is now. 3 steps, and there is no going back." The first, he anonymously sends copies to the Attorney General's office and the Oversight Committee, signing the statement with his own name. The second, he goes live with Ava's program, not hiding anything. "I was blind and proud. My name became the roof under which others built a dark room. I take responsibility for my blindness. But those who plan the darkness, let them see the day." The third, at night, he himself enters the empty Mercer Atlas office, unlocks the safe, and puts inside his last untouched asset, a controlling stake. He records a video will. "If I disappear, sell this stake and create a fund for the affected clients. Let at least someone's warmth return to their homes." Victor calls at exactly 2 o'clock. "You're crazy. You're steering the ship onto the rocks." We've been on the rocks for a long time, Daniel answers. I just turned on the headlights. They don't care about the truth. They're not killing your body. They're killing your ability to influence. Stay with us, I'll clean everything up. With us, who is it? With Orpheus? With those who are sweeping the city under concrete? With the strong. Then I choose the weak. Because they are me in the mirror. The phone clicks like an eyelid. In the morning, on the stairs of the building, he is met not by a crowd but by an avalanche. Some shout fraud, others tell the truth. He stands up to the microphones, without immunity, without a lawyer's shield. His hands tremble, but his voice holds. I don't ask for forgiveness. I make it. The victim's fund has been abandoned. My personal assets are going there. I'm cooperating with the authorities. And I'll testify under oath. The Congress Hall smells of wood and cold sweat. The cameras, the names whispered in the assistant's ears. He doesn't talk about optimization and classification, but about the veteran's mother, about the baby blankets in the back seat, about the small print where the system learned not to count, but to select, about his father's letters, which turned out to be the compass he needed. He sees Victor sitting in the back row, like a ghost of future risks. The smile is gone. Only his eyes are two abysses where the young man he once shared pizza with drowned. When the hearing ends, the world is buzzing. Subpoenas, searches at Orpheus, the first arrests on the periphery of the scheme. But there is something else. His own house is under arrest. The accounts are empty. The contracts are broken. He returns to Queens to the workshop. He sits next to the old Chevy that never started the first time. You did what you had to do, Lewis says, holding out his dirty, hot from work hand. Now the real work begins, not with money, but with people. And suddenly there is silence. Not dead silence, but the silence before the rain. It is heavy, but there is oxygen in it. He closes his eyes and allows himself to get tired for the first time in years. In the darkness, his father's voice comes through. Money is a voice. But the heart must not be silent. I hear, Dad, he whispers. Finally I hear. The trials will drag on for years. The headlines will cool down like asphalt after a thunderstorm. Victor will try to escape through the back door, but the corridor will turn out to be closed by law. And Daniel, in the meantime, will work where likes do not convert into capital, on the fund's hotline, among stories that smell not of numbers, but of life. He will learn to ask not your credit score, but do you have a place to go back to today? Sometimes the victims will call him at night, not for money, but for presents. And he will come. He will bring a heater, blankets, a letter from a lawyer. For the first time in a long time, he will live not on high, but on the ground. One day Ava will come to the workshop, put a small statuette on the table, a lighthouse roughly carved from wood. Not heroism, just to remind you that the world needs light, not glitter. The world loves glitter, he will smile. But it lacks light, she will answer. In the evening, Daniel stands on the roof, looking at the city he once wanted to conquer and now simply loves. He is no longer the wealthiest in the room, but he is perhaps the freest. In his pocket is a crumpled letter from his father. On his wrist is a cheap watch with a scratched glass. A message comes to his phone from the mother of that veteran family. We are home. Thank you. He sits down and laughs and cries for a long time at the same time, because he does not remember the last time the simple word home weighed more than any report. Is it possible to be rich and honest? He thinks about it, watching distant liners drag threads of light across the water. Apparently so, if wealth is not a goal, but a tool. If honesty is not a declaration, but the habit of paying with the truth every day, even when the rate for it is high. What is more important, truth or success? He has learned to answer. Success without truth is just an echo that rings loudly in an empty room. And truth without success is sometimes cold, but it is what lights the fire around which others warm themselves. Can the past be redeemed? No. But you can give it its due, repay debts, call things by their rightful names, learn to put signatures where you once put excuses. He remains on the roof until the first stars split the sky. Messages from beyond the stars are not the whispers of angels or prophetic dreams. It is a small voice that has long lived inside you, but you have finally stopped muffling it. And as he walks down the stairs, the city seems not like a galaxy to be conquered, but a map of streets that lead to people. He takes out his phone and texts Ava. I don't know if we will ever be us, but I know who I want to be. He sends it. Three dots of printing flash in response. Little stars on the dark screen, a sign that the conversation is ongoing. A new day dawns over the city. And though his wallet is lighter than yesterday, his heart seems to have finally begun to weigh just the right amount to keep him from flying into the abyss and getting stuck in the sky, but to walk the earth alongside others. And that is the richest thing he has ever had.